More than 50 years ago, the legend of Bigfoot was born.
Since then, a mysterious, hairy, half-man, half-beast has been reported in many different parts of the world. In New Mexico, people claim to have seen the elusive creature as recently as last month.
I say it's a Bigfoot. I mean, I was real skeptical, at first that, there'd actually be, something moving around on this earth living amongst us.
So we heard it in the... What the f***? Holy Holy oh.
In quiet forests and lonely backroads, ordinary people witness unexplained phenomena. Hunters, hikers, and truck drivers share eerie tales of towering shadows and unsettling gazes. These first-hand accounts fuel the legend of Bigfoot, a mysterious presence that still lurks in the shadows, sparking fear and fascination. The legend begins. Are you ready to uncover the truth that will haunt you forever? Stay tuned. For decades, Bigfoot has divided belief and doubt. Some swear by encounters, tracks, and sounds in the forest. Others dismiss it all as myth, misidentification, or trickery. The clash between believers and skeptics is constant. Yet when you look closer, the arguments against Bigfoot aren't as solid as they first appear. Skeptics often begin with the lack of physical evidence, no bodies, bones, or fossils. But fossilization is rare, especially in wet or forested areas where conditions destroy remains quickly. Even known species like gorillas and cougars leave behind little fossil record in their natural range. Carcasses in wild forests decompose fast, scattered by scavengers and time. DNA samples that have surfaced remain debated, with some unidentified hairs showing traits of a primate not yet classified. Could the absence of proof be explained not by non-existence, but by nature's ability to erase its own traces? The second skeptical point is that no Bigfoot has ever been captured. Yet many large species were once thought impossible until suddenly proven real. The coelacanth, a living fossil of the ocean, remained hidden for millennia. The okapi, long dismissed as a myth, became science fact in the early 20th century. Vast wilderness still covers more than 300 million acres in North America alone. In places so remote, creatures with intelligence and caution could avoid people entirely. Skeptics also point to hoaxes. Yes, some claims have been false. But does the existence of forgeries mean the phenomenon itself is false? Thousands of reports over centuries come from hunters, park rangers, police officers, and scientists, people with training to know what they saw. Tracks have been documented with dermal ridges, details far beyond the reach of simple fakery. Recordings such as the Sierra Sound still puzzle experts, with vocal ranges beyond human capacity.
Rain for night view.
Hoaxes exist, but so does evidence that resists easy dismissal. Another argument is the lack of clear video or photographs. Smartphones may be everywhere, but encounters often happen in low-light, dense forests or fleeting moments. Even seasoned wildlife photographers struggle to capture known animals under such conditions. The Patterson-Gimlin film, recorded in 1967, remains unproven as a hoax despite decades of scrutiny. Anatomical details in that footage have left some experts convinced it shows something beyond costume or trick. Reports also vary, different sizes, colors, behaviors. Skeptics call this inconsistency. But variation is natural in species. Bears, wolves, even gorillas change in appearance from one region to the next. Lighting, distance, and fear can alter human perception. Yet the central description remains: a large hair-covered biped, part human, part ape. The differences may tell us less about fabrication and more about a species adapting to its environment. In the end, skeptics hold to their doubts, and believers hold to their encounters. The truth may lie somewhere in the wilderness, waiting. If so many cultures across the world share the same story, is it only coincidence or a pattern pointing to something real? The forest holds more than silence. In the stillness, every sound matters. A crack, a knock, a whisper of movement. What if something out there listens back? At Frozen Head State Park in Tennessee, a team sets out to test an unusual idea. Could strange human voices, gibberish, lure a Bigfoot closer? The team chooses a familiar ridge, a place where activity has happened before. The night feels heavy, quiet. Then, without warning, a deep wood knock echoes through the trees. The sound is sharp, hollow, like a heavy branch slammed against another. It comes from just below Cliff's position, startlingly close. Could something be standing just out of sight?
And it looks to be working, as Cliff just heard a wood knock.
Solid knock, game is on. Hey, whatever that was is pretty much right below my position right now. He sounds so close and I can't see him at all. These woods are thick this time of year.
The woods are thick, almost impenetrable to the eye. Cliff searches but sees nothing. That's when the group decides on an unusual tactic. Instead of long howls, they begin speaking nonsense. Random words, strange phrases, bursts of gibberish. Their voices echo across the ridge in odd rhythms. Why would Bigfoot be interested in human nonsense? Perhaps curiosity is stronger than caution. Or perhaps these sounds mimic something it understands. Moments later, the atmosphere changes. Cliff halts mid-step. A strong, skunky odor fills the air, sudden and overwhelming. He describes every hair on his body standing on end. Have others reported this before? Yes. Many encounters mention this exact smell, a musky wave that arrives without warning. Could it be the creature itself, standing close enough to smell?
Oh, geez. I just walked into a skunk smell, and every hair on my body is now standing up.
No way.
Heard something weird. Heard something real weird. It was above me.
Yes, this is rad.
The sensation is powerful. Cliff whispers that it feels electric, like the forest itself has shifted.
Stood up. This is weird, man. There's very few times in my life I've experienced anything like this. Absolutely electric.
The smell lingers before beginning to fade. Is it moving away? Or did it stop watching them altogether? The silence feels heavier now, as if the woods are closing back in.
It's starting to fade a little bit.
I'm kind of jealous of Cliff right now. That skunky type of smell is reported fairly common by witnesses that have been in tight quarters with a squatch. It's a good sign because there could be one around Cliff right now.
The team regroups, weighing what just happened. Their strange calls may have drawn the creature closer, only to lose it again when it realized what they were. Isn't it strange how something so massive can vanish without a trace? No broken branch, no glimpse of movement, just a smell that came and went. Cliff reports the odor is gone. Whatever had been near them has slipped away into the night. The strategy, though unproven, seemed to work. The creature was curious, perhaps cautious, but present. What else could explain the knock, the smell, and the sudden charge in the air?
Copy that. He's not smelling anything anymore.
That smell was above me and now it's moving away. I think it's moving on. I think it clued into what we were and just skedaddled.
You know what? I think the strategy worked. I think we were able to predict which side of the canyon it would come on, making the sounds up high, then making them down here too, brought it right down.
The ridge grows quiet again. The team reflects on how little control they truly have. With limited resources, they cannot cover every path or predict every move. Isn't that what makes Bigfoot so enduring? The way it always stays one step ahead? The night ends without footage, no shape caught on camera. But the signs remain. The knock, the smell, the charge in the air. Are those enough to prove an unseen visitor was there? Or are they just fragments of something bigger, something that slips through our grasp every time we get close? Melissa called the page about 2 separate sightings, the first in about 1993 and the second a couple years later.
I think the first one was around 93, and the second one was probably a couple years after that.
Okay, so you had 2 different incidences. Tell us about the first one.
Why tell this story now? Because the memory stayed with her, and because the details match things other witnesses describe. A booming call, then a quick, dark figure on a back road. She woke at about 3 in the morning and went out onto the back porch with her husband. A sound came from a few hundred yards away, so loud you could feel it in your chest. What made it unlike any animal she knew was the power behind it. Could something that large actually make a noise like that?
Well, I was sleeping in bed. It was probably 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, let me first say, I lived in northern Michigan, the northern part of the lower peninsula of Michigan.
Okay.
And we lived on 40 acres, all bordered by, I don't know how many acres, but loads of state property.
The call changed shapes. A scream that fell into a roar, then a lower guttural pitch. At times it sounded like someone in terrible trouble. At others it sounded like an angry, deep bellow. It repeated every few minutes for as long as half an hour to an hour. Did anyone else hear the answer? Melissa didn't know then. Later she read more reports and found the same pattern in many accounts.
Had a lung capacity that you would not, that I would think would be unbelievable. This was not a bobcat. I've heard bobcats.
Mm-hmm.
This was not a owl. This was not the normal coyotes or whatever that are around that area because I lived there for years and years.
Melissa says it was not an owl, not a bobcat, not any local coyote. The sound had a lung capacity that felt unbelievable, like a voice built for the open woods. If this was a call, what was it asking for? Attention, warning, or something else? The repeated nature of the sound made her think it wasn't mechanical.
It went off every couple minutes for probably a good half hour to an hour, and every time it would go, it was almost exactly the same. Not exactly, but close enough where you knew it was the same thing. Because it crossed my mind, could that be something mechanical?
It was living and deliberate. That next summer, she was driving a dirt back road near McCormick Lake Road when she caught something moving in the cedar swamp. At first she thought a loose horse had run because of the speed. Then she saw a dark silhouette framed by sunlight behind the trees. Head and shoulders, part of an arm swinging, and 2 very thick legs. She only had a few seconds. How often do quick glances change everything we believe?
Yeah.
And I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and it was moving so fast. The very first thing that popped into my head was a neighbor of ours' horse got loose. The guy that lived way down the road had horses, and I thought a black horse must have gotten loose because nothing else could run. It was running fast enough to where I thought it had to be, I guess, a horse.
Silhouette, head and shoulders, long hair down back, 2 thick legs, viewed approximately 3 seconds. She slowed and lost it. When she looked again, it was gone. Vanished into the thicket or crouched low where the light couldn't find it.
Just a couple of seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, 3 seconds or so.
How fast do you think you were going?
Well, I was on a dirt road, and I had just made that turn, so I wasn't going more than... even if I had got up to full speed where I normally drive on that road, I couldn't have been going more than 30.
Could something that size disappear that fast? Melissa says she thinks now it could have been an adult moving to protect a young one, running hard to hide or to reach cover. The fear she felt in that moment was real. She worried for her small car and for the safety of her family if something that big decided to cross the road.
I wasn't thinking Bigfoot. I wasn't really, not that I wasn't aware of Bigfoot, but, it was kind of a joke, whatever.
Yeah.
And But I do remember thinking that I was afraid because where I had to go to get home, as fast as that thing was moving, technically, it could have about 3 or 4 different ways it could have gone, where it would either cut me off or cross the road in front of me, or, you know what I'm saying?
Did she call anyone that night? No. She kept driving, kept the kids asleep, kept the mystery to herself for years. Later, she filed the BFRO report, 27009. And later still, she began to see patterns in the noises and sightings that matched others' stories.
And this was just like the same year of the previous incident, right? When you heard the howl?
Yeah. And I can't tell you I can't tell you if those 2 events linked up in my mind at the time or not. I don't know. But when I looked, I saw it for a few seconds. I looked back to the road to make sure I was, not going to go off the road. And when I looked back, I didn't see it. I don't know if it stopped and crouched down. I don't know if it got away from me because it was going so fast. I don't know if it veered off somewhere. But when I looked over, and it should have been there, and it wasn't, that's what freaked me out. I looked back, nothing.
Why does that consistency matter? Because repeated markers, loud calls, skittish movement, quick vanishings, make the strange feel less random. Looking back, Melissa wonders if an adult was protecting a young one, or if the calls were a territorial cry. What would you have done if you heard that sound in the dark? Would you step outside? Turn the car around? The story ends without a clear picture on film, but with 2 sharp pieces of evidence. A voice that could be felt, and a silhouette that ran like nothing she'd seen before.
If it was going fast enough, I guess it could have got out of my sight. But my first thought was whatever it was, either stuck behind a tree or crouched down, because there was still enough sunlight coming in behind that cedar swamp at the time. I should have still been able to see it.
Yeah.
After turning away for just a second, and I couldn't.
Would you call that the clearest proof she has? Or the clearest clue that something larger than us still moves through those northern Michigan woods? Mount St. Helens is a land shaped by both destruction and mystery. On May 18, 1980, the volcano erupted with an impact 500 times greater than Hiroshima. Forests fell, wildlife vanished, entire valleys were buried. Yet even in this scarred landscape, whispers of Sasquatch have lingered for generations. Would a creature so elusive choose to hide where humans rarely tread? Inside volcanic caves and forgotten ridges? The native peoples spoke of them as part of this land. Modern researchers still call this one of the most likely habitats in North America. The endless forests, the hidden lava tubes, and the remote ridges create a maze of places to vanish. For Bigfoot, it may be the perfect shelter.
Hundreds and thousands of years. Now, a lot of people have always considered Mount St. Helens as perfect Bigfoot habitat, as they have always been here for hundreds of years, if not thousands. The natives before us will tell you that they were absolutely here.
If you were to disappear for a lifetime, would you choose a place like this? Mike's journey took him deep into Ape Cave, one of the vast lava tubes beneath the mountain. The walls rose like a cathedral, ceilings nearly 30 feet high. The tunnel stretched for miles into darkness, cold and silent. Perfect cover for anything that does not wish to be found. Would you dare walk alone into a cave that swallows sound and light alike? Above ground, strangeness lingered. Mike discovered a massive boulder balanced atop a tree stump. Its size was impossible for a person to move by hand. Stranger still, sticks protruded oddly from beneath. Was this the work of nature, or something with strength far beyond ours?
So that was a gigantic boulder on top of a tree stump. And then seems to be some smaller trees sticking out underneath it that aren't a part of the tree stump. That's like one of the more bizarre things I've kind of seen. The rock is huge, sitting on top of a tree stump. I've never seen a boulder this big on top of a tree stump. I mean, this is huge. No human could lift that at all. Equipment could. And then what makes it even weirder is the stick coming out.
When you see something like this, do you assume an accident or intention? Later, Mike found an upside-down tree, roots in the air, trunk driven into the soil. Rangers suggested it may have tumbled from the cliffs, but the sheer force required left room for doubt. Some researchers believe such displays could be signs of dominance, territorial markers left by male Sasquatch. Could a creature claim the forest by moving trees like pawns on a board? Night fell at June Lake, a place both breathtaking and unsettling. Alone with only a campfire, Mike sat listening. Twice, he heard heavy objects slam into the ground nearby. Each time it felt as though something was testing his presence, close, deliberate, unseen.
It just happened again. I'm just gonna have to keep recording, which I can't do, obviously. I don't know if it was that rock down there, but it lands. Both times it's landed like my water bottle falls off.
What would you do if the unseen began to move just out of reach? Others had reported being followed here, footsteps pacing them in the dark. Some claimed they were escorted off trails by something walking upright. Alone, in silence, Mike tried a whoop into the night. No reply came, but the weight of possibility pressed in. Do you think silence in the forest is an answer in itself? By morning the rain cleared. Prints in the mud caught his eye, large odd impressions beside elk and deer tracks. Were they natural overlaps or something stranger? No certainty came, only the sense that the mountain was holding back more than it gave away.
I just spooked a deer. It scared the crap out of me. Man, now this is Bigfooting. This feels really squatchy. These logging areas, I think it probably strikes a nerve with a species that has learned to just be one with nature. Here we are coming in here just cutting everything down.
Could this wild land still hide the greatest mystery of all? Exploring with Angelo had camped alone in the woods of British Columbia, a place already known for whispers of tragedy and restless energy. What should have been an ordinary night in the forest quickly slipped into something much stranger, beginning with something as simple as a failing light. His gear was fully charged, every battery tested, yet his main light flickered and died. Angelo muttered in confusion. Something had drained his equipment. Moments later, even with a new battery, the unease lingered.
Hang on. Let's see if it happens one more time. Yep. Okay, something drained my battery. Okay, we're back in business here. Got a fresh battery for my light. That was strange. All my batteries are fully charged, so that should not be happening. But it did happen, so yeah, I don't know. But whatever was knocking out here literally sounded pretty close.
Was something interfering with his electronics? Not long after, he picked up sounds in the darkness. Sharp, deliberate knocks echoed from nearby trees. He turned cautiously, scanning the trail. Nobody should have been there at that hour. The forest felt alive, heavy, as if something waited just beyond his vision. Then he came upon something out of place. A fire pit, sitting in a spot where it should not have been. Only weeks earlier, it hadn't been there. Who had moved it, and why?
Like I said, I don't see why anybody would be out on this trail right now. Something trying to draw me into the woods? So creepy over here. Oh, what the heck? Oh, we found the fire pit. What is it doing there? That is the fire pit, right? I think. Looks like it. I don't understand how the heck it ended up here. That is the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
The deeper he went, the stranger things became. Metallic clanging carried through the trees, too heavy to be an animal. Then came the crash. His camping table and tripod, sturdy and heavy enough to resist the wind, toppled over as if struck with force. Angelo's voice cracked with disbelief. Something unseen had pushed them over. But what had the strength to do that without showing itself?
What the? Something knocked the table over. And my tripod. Okay. Did someone come through? How did that even happen? That legitimately does not even make sense right now. Unless something just came through and did that.
A car alarm blared suddenly from his vehicle, shattering the night silence. He hadn't touched it. No one else was around. The woods pressed in tighter, each sound magnified. A scream followed, sharp and distant, yet human in tone. Angelo called out, but nothing answered.
You know, people are just not going to be able to come up here anymore, which is going to be sad. That is really, really... What the hell was that? I swear I just heard a scream up there. The Hello?
Then, for the first time, he saw it. A man-like figure with half a face missing stood watching from the ridge. His fear was immediate. This was no camper, no hiker. This was something else entirely. The figure appeared again and again, each time vanishing as Angelo tried to track it.
So we heard it in the... What the Holy 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 I just saw the man up there again. With the half-missing face? What the... What are you? That is the third time I've seen him. I gotta check the footage because I don't even know if I happened to turn the camera the entire way, but I... Oh, man.
When he returned to his car, fresh handprints marked the hood. 2 prints, smudged and clear, pressed into the metal. He hadn't touched it all night. The silence that followed was worse than the noise before. Was this an intelligent haunting? Or something far darker, tied to the land itself?
Guys, I didn't touch the hood of my car. Like, at all today. Dude. What the... Someone touched the hood of my car. I mean, I didn't notice if that was there earlier, but... just noticing it now.
Angelo recalled that only a year earlier, 2 bodies had been found in this very area. He hadn't known when he first camped here, but now the realization hit him hard. He had slept in the same place where death had left its mark. The thought chilled him more than the cold night air. Could the figure be tied to those deaths? Or was this something even older, something bound to the mountain itself? By the time dawn approached, he had experienced screams, crashes, drained power, and the sight of a faceless figure.
Alright, I think I'm going to make my way further down. I don't know if I'm going to stop anywhere else. I guess if I see somewhere interesting, I will. But damn, we got a lot tonight. Holy crap. And like, what are the odds that this car would have been parked right where I camped? Not even like a year ago. That's crazy. But alright, let's get a move on.
He ended the night unsure of what he had truly encountered. Was it spirit, man, or monster? Whatever it was, Angelo left convinced. The mountain holds secrets that do not rest easily. In the rugged expanse of New Mexico's Four Corners region, the land itself feels like it's holding secrets. Vast mesas stretch under an endless sky. Rivers cut through canyons, and the mountains rise like walls around the desert floor. For locals, these wild spaces are not empty. They're alive with a legend. The people here believe that Bigfoot still moves through the canyons and rivers, leaving behind fleeting signs that keep trackers chasing.
More than 50 years ago, the legend of Bigfoot was born.
Since then, a mysterious, hairy, half-man, half-beast has been reported in many different parts of the world. In New Mexico, people claim to have seen the elusive creature as recently as last month. Annie McCormick just trekked across Bigfoot country with trackers who are convinced he's there.
Jimmy Hasso was one of the first to speak openly. Driving near the San Juan River, he stopped at a light and saw what looked like a dark tree moving in the water. But there were no trees in that stretch of river. He watched it step with ease, tall, deliberate, arms swinging in a way no human could imitate. It saw me, he remembered, and I saw it. For minutes they stood in silence, man and creature watching each other.
I couldn't believe that my eyes had actually seen that, you know. It's amazing.
Jimmy Hasso is recounting his story to Tom Biscardi, a Bigfoot hunter who has been on the creature's trail for 35 years. The team listens to Hasso describe his experience last month. Driving by the San Juan River in Farmington, he stopped at a light, turned his head, and saw something.
That thing was just standing still, like walking in the water like nothing.
Hasso says it looked like a tall, dark tree that was moving. There are no trees in that section of the river.
Veteran tracker Tom Biscardi, who has pursued the mystery for over 3 decades, came to New Mexico to investigate. With his crew, he set camp across the Four Corners, a region long tied to sightings. The San Juan River, the Navajo Reservation, and the Luca Chuque Range all became part of their trail. At one camp, a member of the team claimed to see a figure slipping quickly down a ravine. By morning, they found prints, deep, wide, and clear against the mountain soil.
You see how easy of a vantage point for something in the night, in the dark, to be sitting right here, looking down at us at our campfire, and us down in our area, without being spotted.
On the way up the mountain, one member of the team claims he had a possible sighting.
Right down the ravine. I mean, immediately. I didn't even could tell if it was 4 feet or 2 feet.
And on top of the Chucas, they found clear, large tracks. Other mystery tracks were found on the Oshihee Reservation.
The tracks were measured, studied, compared. On a scale of 1 to 10, the crew rated them an 8. Biscardi noted the size, over 15 inches long, pressed deep by weight. The prints continued along the riverbank where food and cover are abundant. This is a natural homeland, he explained. Shelter, water, and room to move unseen. His crew set up infrared cameras, hoping the night would reveal what the day concealed. One cave near Farmington offered something stranger. Inside, they found Indian corn husks stacked neatly on a ledge. Corn was known locally as a favorite food of Bigfoot, and unlike deer or smaller animals, no other creature ate it so precisely. Navajo tracker Leonard pointed out the ledges and crevices, perfect hiding spots, easy exits. For him, this was no myth. His own sighting years earlier had changed him. To Leonard, these caves were not only shelter but possibly home.
This is a really good spot for them to hide.
Leonard is a Navajo tracker who grew up believing Bigfoot was a possibility. Now, he believes it's a fact.
My first sighting was about 5 years ago along the San Juan River.
With Biscardi's crew, Leonard shows us caves full of hiding spots and easy entrances and exits.
This is their favorite food, is corn, especially Indian corn.
Supposedly a Bigfoot favorite. Their theory, other animals would not eat it as neatly.
But not everyone agreed. Skeptical inquirers Ben Radford questioned the theory. If such massive creatures lived here, why were no bones, no remains ever found? In a desert state, with limited food and water, how could something so large endure? His doubts echoed a familiar challenge, yet they did little to silence locals who swore by what they'd seen.
In New Mexico, for example, a creature that's that big is going to have a consistent water source and a large food source. And much of New Mexico, as you know, is desert. It's arid. And there just isn't the water there to be able to sustain these sorts of creatures.
Ben Radford is managing editor of Skeptical Inquirer magazine, which explores myths and supernatural claims. He says there's a huge hole in the Bigfoot theory.
If these creatures are out there, they have to die at some point. Why isn't anybody finding them?
Sightings, after all, continued. Men, women, and law enforcement officers reporting figures too tall, too broad to be bears. Even today, the question lingers like the desert wind. Is something walking these canyons at night? Could the caves near Farmington hide more than bats and snakes? Or is the Four Corners legend destined to remain only that? A story passed through generations, waiting for proof that may never come? Have you ever felt like the mountains were watching you? Not just the wind, not just the trees, but something alive. In the high reaches of the eastern Sierras, where the snow stays late and the air thins, people say something moves between the pines. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a creature most will never see, but some will never forget. Bill was one of those people. It was May. He was up on Coyote Ridge, nearly 10,000 feet above sea level. The snow was still thick, crunching under his boots. His dogs ran ahead, kicking up white powder. It felt like any other quiet day, until it wasn't. Watch this part in the far left of the frame, behind the trees. Something dark moved quickly. Not a skier, not a hiker. It walked smooth, almost gliding, with no bounce in its stride. Bill zoomed in later, 400%, and the shape became clear. Dark fur, a domed head, long arms swinging with each step. It slipped into thick cover, pulled branches aside, and squatted low, watching. The dog seemed to notice. Its head turned toward the shadow, but Bill didn't see it. Not yet. He panned away to film his dogs, never realizing a massive figure was only yards away, hidden in the trees. When RMSO slowed the footage to half speed, the details became sharper. You could see the arms move. The body didn't match a human frame. And the way it stopped, low and still, felt more like a predator than a passerby. Arthur knew that feeling. His story happened in 1997, deep in Sequoia National Park. He was a ranger back then, sent to investigate strange sounds in an overgrown area visitors rarely entered. Noon sun filtered through thick brush. He had a tranquilizer rifle in the Jeep, just in case. Then came the growl, deep, close. He turned and froze. It stood taller than any grizzly he'd seen. Reddish-brown fur, wide shoulders, human-like hands, massive and strong. Its face wasn't animal, it was something else entirely. Arthur's voice shakes even now as he describes it, charging toward him. He dove into the Jeep just as it hit, smashing the window. The glass burst inward. It grunted, angry, hurt, then chased him on all fours, fast as a sprinting chimp. Arthur floored it, swerving around curves until the thing was gone. When he returned, shaken and pale, his boss didn't believe him, called him a liar, fired him. For years he kept silent, living with the fear, the dreams, the panic attacks, and still he insists it was no bear. Bears don't have human faces. They don't watch from cover. They don't run like that. Look closely.
Be careful.
In the eastern Sierras and the Sequoia forests, sightings like these keep stacking up, each one different, each one eerily the same. So, what walks these mountains? And if you ever meet its gaze, will you survive to tell the story? Have you ever walked into a place that felt untouched? Not just quiet, but guarded. Deep in Oregon's private logging lands, behind locked gates and long-forgotten roads, something has been crossing the gravel at night. Twice now, witnesses have reported a towering figure stepping out of the timber, heading toward a place few people ever go. Cliff Barackman and Nico Spadafora call it Easter Island. They gave it that name so they can talk about it without giving away the real location. It's a place of thick forests, game trails, and no casual visitors. With new permits in hand, they finally stepped into hundreds of unexplored acres, hoping to learn why Sasquatches seem drawn here. They start by walking old logging roads, eyes scanning for soft mud that might hold tracks. The air is cool, the forest still. Then, signs of life. Watch this part.
Look at this. This is a game highway. This isn't a one-time travel path or something. This area right here is used a lot. And a neat thing about this is that if you drew a line from where this game highway is to the location on the road where Sasquatches have been seen twice now, it's less than a quarter mile.
They find what Cliff calls a game highway, a wide, worn path cutting straight toward the very spot where both sightings happened. It's less than a quarter mile away. Hoof prints, scat, and bent grass all say this route is used often. And where prey walk, predators watch. They move deeper. A pile of fresh bear scat steams faintly in the shade. Bears mean abundant food, and where bears thrive, Sasquatches might too. A snapped tree catches their eye, its top broken, not twisted, as if something heavy leaned hard against it. No elk marks, no human saw. The road sinks lower, grass creeping over the gravel. Brambles thicken, tangles of Himalayan blackberry, thorned and dense. Perfect cover. Something could lie inside and never be seen.
Lots of snowberry too. Right here, yeah. Don't know why all the berries are still here, none of the leaves, but... Walk right through it all, didn't notice.
A glint of water pulls them forward. They push through until the trees open onto a small pond, ringed with fresh shoots. Deer prints crowd the shore. A narrow trail winds down to the water's edge. From a cliff above, anything could watch the animals below without being seen. Look closely.
Lo and behold, there's a pond down here, and where there's water, there are plants, and where there are plants, there are herbivores, and where there are herbivores, there are their predators.
It's a perfect hunting blind, or a perfect lookout. The cliff also leads back toward the original game highway, but to get there means fighting through steep, thorn-covered slopes. The climb is brutal. Brambles claw at their clothes, thorn tips finding skin. Steep ground forces them to grab at roots and rocks. Halfway up, Nico freezes. Fresh bear tracks in the soft soil. The animal used the same route, likely just hours earlier. The view from the top is worth it. From here, the movement of deer below is clear. The pond glimmering through breaks in the canopy. It's exactly the kind of place a hidden watcher might return to again and again. Watch here.
I thought that looked like a bear trail earlier.
Look at that.
Oh yeah, right there. Yeah. That's a good shot here. You can see with the light and everything.
Yeah, fantastic.
Cool.
That's a good one.
2 road crossings, a game highway, fresh bear sign, remote terrain with rich food sources. Every piece points the same way. This could be a travel route for Sasquatches. So the question is, how many times has something already stood here, watching? And next time, will anyone be close enough to see it? This remarkable footage comes from the hit series Expedition Bigfoot, and what it captures is one of the most intense moments of their entire investigation. Mireya and Russell were deep in the mountainside, working with what they called the ultimate tracking system, an advanced piece of technology capable of detecting bipedal figures that human eyes might miss. Then, suddenly, the system lit up. They had a hit. Russell was already in the field, taking up position, while Bryce monitored the surveillance array. The team could see Russell's live feed on the monitors when something unexpected happened. A figure appeared on the array. It moved from behind a tree, partially visible, but undeniably upright, and it wasn't a member of their team. "That's not one of us," Bryce confirmed. Who or what was it?
There's Russ right there.
Russ to Bryce, Russ to Bryce. I hear you, Russ. Go for Bryce. You should be able to see me. Do you have me?
Yeah, we do see you on the surveillance array. Looking good, buddy.
Awesome, man. Let me know if there's anything I need to pay attention to.
Copy that.
Thank you, Bryce.
Stay safe.
Hang on, up the hill a little bit.
What the is that?
We got a target here. Came up from behind a tree.
Bryce quickly radioed Mireya, urging her to get closer to the target. Meanwhile, Russell scanned the soil beneath his feet, picking up disturbances. impressions, signs that something large had been moving through this area recently. And then things got even stranger.
Holy.
Hey, Maria, the AI has acquired a target coming up to you.
It's really close. I'd say about 200 yards to the southwest, and it looks big. Are you seeing anything?
I'm not seeing anything. I'm going to keep going in the southwest direction. Keep your eyes on it and let me know if it changes direction. All right, let's keep moving.
Bryce spotted movement again. This time something was coming fast, heading straight toward Russell's position. Russell received the direction and immediately moved to intercept. His breathing quickened, the forest eerily quiet around him except for the sound of distant rain. Meanwhile, Mireya was still closing in on the first heat signature. That's when the team realized something shocking. They weren't tracking just one figure. There were two targets.
I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the soil, disturbances. This whole area has been pushed up a little bit.
As Mireya heads towards the heat signature, on the other side of the mountain, Russell searches his target area.
A lot of stuff moving right through here. It's almost like I feel a little hidden sidewalk here.
Holy. I am getting something coming up on Russ. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, it's big.
But the conditions were quickly turning against them. The mountain weather shifted without warning. The drizzle became heavy rain, and waves of dense fog began rolling in, cutting visibility to almost nothing. The tracking system started to fail. "We're losing signal," Bryce called out. With the storm worsening and the targets vanishing into the mist, the team was left with more questions than answers. Who or what were they closing in on? And were they the hunters or the hunted? One thing was certain. Whatever was out there had vanished just as quickly as it had appeared, swallowed by the fog.
Russ for Bryce.
Russell, I got you loud and clear, man.
Something just broke a stick out in front of me.
Less than 100 yards. How close am I?
If you stay that course, you should be able to intercept.
Copy that. Moving in.
It's just incredibly hard right now with this terrain and this weather.
Nestled between Akron and Cleveland lies one of the most hauntingly beautiful stretches of wilderness in Ohio, Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Its name alone stirs nostalgia for locals who grew up fishing its creeks, hiking its trails, or riding the scenic railway that winds through the heart of the valley. But behind that picturesque charm, the park holds a reputation that is anything but serene. For decades, whispers of strange sightings and unexplained encounters have echoed through these hills. Some blame local folklore, others call it superstition, but those who have seen it with their own eyes aren't laughing. Filmmaker and investigator Seth Breedlove of Small Town Monsters returned to this park to chase one such report. A brand new sighting that took place frighteningly close to a location that already has a dark history. To understand this encounter, Seth retraces the story of Joe Kesky's infamous 1995 sighting, where what appeared to be a tree stump suddenly rose out of the water, charging through the marsh, thrashing and splashing as though determined to drive Joe and his friends away. That incident alone might have been dismissed as youthful imagination, if not for what happened years later, only a few hundred yards away.
It was July 7th. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. It was like already 92 degrees outside. Very hot day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. I was walking these railroad tracks, and when I got halfway down, there's like a covert going under the railroad tracks.
The more recent witness, who has asked to remain anonymous, remembers the day vividly. It was July 7th, she recalls. A brutally hot summer morning, 92 degrees already by 11 o'clock. I was walking along the railroad tracks with my dogs, the kind of quiet, sun-drenched day where you can hear every sound. I stopped on a culvert overlooking the swamp. That's when I saw it. Something tall, impossibly tall, stepped across the tracks ahead of her. It was jet black from head to toe, she said. What froze me was how it moved. It didn't step on the tracks. It stepped over them. like the entire rail meant nothing to it. She stood there in shock, her dogs still sniffing the brush, blissfully unaware of what had just passed before them. Then the feeling crept in, the primal warning that you are being watched. I called my dogs back. The moment I did, it came back around the thicket. Whatever it was, it crouched down low and just stared at me. I didn't wait to see what it would do next. I ran straight for the houses near the trailhead and told a ranger what I saw. They laughed at me. Her voice hardens at the memory. They treated me like I was making it up, like I'd just seen a hiker. But I know what I saw, and it wasn't a hiker. This kind of dismissal isn't unusual. Even back when Joe Keski tried to report his sighting, local authorities turned it into a joke, passing it along to the fire department with a chuckle. Yet sightings persist, and many of them, like this one, describe a creature with jet black hair. Researcher Sonia Horstman points out that while Bigfoot sightings in Ohio typically mention brown or reddish fur, there is a strange concentration of reports here in Cuyahoga Valley describing a black figure, tall, thin, and unnervingly quiet. And this witness's story is not an isolated case.
My son would be out there skiing, and of course I'd be asking the people who work there, any good Bigfoot stories? Any good Bigfoot stories? And they said yes, they've been seen at the edge where they have the snow machines blowing. They've been seen watching the snow machines.
Do you think,
again,
like
black
daytime or
Bigfoots?
nighttime?
Well, they do it during the day and night, I think, but they were seen there. I'm pretty sure it was during the day, but they blow those snow machines all day, all night, you know, when the weather's just right.
Yeah.
In 2015, years after her original sighting, she returned to the park with a friend after a snowstorm. Near an old cabin, she spotted a line of bare footprints in the snow, each print spaced nearly 6 feet apart. You could see the mid-tarsal break clear as day, she remembers. They weren't sinking into the snow like we were. Something heavy had walked straight through without breaking the crust. Following the tracks, they found the remains of a deer partially buried near the creek. Whatever left those prints had been feeding there recently and was likely still nearby.
I can with her to see how she is. So we went down in the creek and we're walking way back in there, and I probably get maybe 500 feet back in there, and she puts her head down and she starts growling really low.
For longtime visitors, the valley is full of these unnerving moments. Sonia tells of ski lodge employees spotting something watching the snow machines, and other hikers reporting large figures crossing open fields near the ranger station. Each story adds to the sense that there is a presence here, not just passing through, but returning again and again. Researchers like Mark Mazzell believe the park's waterways are the key. The Cuyahoga River and its many tributaries form a perfect natural corridor for a large animal to travel unseen, slipping in and out of the valley without leaving a trace. For a nocturnal, highly intelligent creature, this would be ideal habitat, and its proximity to towns only deepens the mystery. The valley's lore is tied not just to cryptids, but to legend. Locals still speak of Helltown, an abandoned village on the park's edge rumored to be cursed, or the site of a government cover-up. When you connect the history, the folklore, and the sheer number of modern sightings, you get a picture of a place that is more than just a park. It is a crossroads, where wilderness, memory, and myth collide. Maybe that's why people keep coming back, despite the fear. Maybe it's the river winding through the heart of the valley, or the rolling trails that promise to take you far from ordinary life. Or maybe it's the pull of the unknown. The sense that, just beyond the next tree line, something might be standing there, watching, waiting. Whatever this witness saw that July morning, she never forgot it. For her, and for many others, Cuyahoga Valley is no longer just a scenic escape. It is a place where the ordinary world slips away, and the shadows hold something very real. The Appalachian Trail is legendary. Stretching more than 2,000 miles across the eastern United States, it's known not only for its breathtaking beauty, but also for its long, dark history of disappearances, strange encounters, and even cryptid sightings. And in one particularly notorious stretch, a hiker named Hike Slam, alongside his wife, Courtney, decided to film an exploration for his YouTube channel. What they captured there may be one of the eeriest Appalachian videos yet. This section of the trail already carries a grim reputation. Locals remember it as the place where 4-year-old Ottie Klein Powell went missing in November of 1891. After straying from Tower Hill Schoolhouse, the boy's body was discovered months later on April 5, 1892, a full 7 miles away. The story haunts the Appalachian community to this day, and the ground where it happened is whispered to carry an energy of sorrow, and sometimes something darker. As the couple walked the trail during the daytime, the woods carried a heavy silence. The deeper they went, the stranger it became. Hike Slam's camera picked up a series of bizarre discoveries scattered almost deliberately across the area.
About 50 feet off the top of Bluff Mountain is this little memorial here. So it says, "This is the exact spot little Ottie Klein Powell's body was found April 5th, 1891, after straying from Tower Hill Schoolhouse, November 9th, a distance of 7 miles, age 4 years, 11 months.
First was an old oil bottle tossed on the ground. Across its surface, written in permanent marker, were notes, ramblings that didn't seem to make sense, like someone trying to leave behind a message but unable to form it clearly. Then came a rock, etched with writing. The words looked like a warning, though the meaning wasn't clear. A few steps away, another rock, this one also bearing crude handwriting. When the video slows, you can see more scrawled messages, each one unsettling, each one placed with intent. And then, something worse. The body of a dead duck, left deliberately beside the writings. A chilling offering, or perhaps some kind of ritual. It raised the same question every viewer had: who would do this?
The weirdness continues. And there's a dead duck here.
As the couple pressed on, they discovered a long note, written out in messy, manic lettering. The words were almost too chaotic to follow, but they carried a tone of obsession, anger, maybe even warning. Just as Hike Slam leaned closer to read, the air shifted. From somewhere nearby came the sound of fire crackling. Not the distant pop of branches or the hiss of wind, an unmistakable sound of flames alive in the woods. But when he turned his camera toward the source, there was no campfire in sight.
Very long note. And it looks like it was just put here because it's not wet. That duck is fairly recently. All right. Kind of creepy.
That's when the weight of the place truly settled in. The writings, the strange offerings, the sound of fire, all of it building toward a single realization. They weren't alone out there. Despite all of this, Hike Slam announced he would be spending the night in that very spot, alone with only his wife, the trees, and whatever, or whoever, was lurking nearby. His bravery is one thing, but some might call it recklessness. Because when you add together the tragic history, the warning scrawled on stone, the dead animal left behind, and the phantom sound of fire, one thing is clear: this wasn't just a trail. This was a place marked. So who was leaving those messages? Was it a person living feral in the woods? A cult? Or was it something far older, tied to the trail's haunted history? The truth remains hidden in the Appalachian shadows. But one thing's for certain: few would dare sleep where Hike Slam and Courtney chose to stay. The voices you've heard tonight come from real people, each carrying a moment they can't forget. Their stories may differ, but together they draw the outline of something that refuses to disappear. In the forests, on back roads, by rivers, sightings continue. The question remains not in folklore, but in lived experience. What did they see? Was it a myth or a being still walking among us? The Bigfoot story is written not in legends but in memories, and the next chapter could come from someone like you.